Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about Trevor Lawrence and his draft prospects is the man himself, Logan Landers. How's it going, Mr. Landers?
Jeremiah, first off, let me just say it's our first show of the new year, man. Happy to kick things off here. And what better way to start things off than with one of the best quarterbacks coming out of college right now with Trevor Lawrence. Hope you had a great holiday, enjoyed it safe, socially distanced, of course.
Yeah.
But, hey, I'm ready to talk some football, though.
Same, brother. I hope you also had a great new year. We've been doing it really big. This last year has been the biggest year of growth for 100 Yards of Football in our history. In the last year, Logan has joined us. We've had some other great coaches and legendary players join our team. And we've also launched our podcast over on the Believe Podcast Network. So we're feeling really good. We're doing great. And we're ready to talk some football. So without further ado, Logan, let's talk about Trevor Lawrence.
Let's do it. So everyone knows who Trevor Lawrence is. If you're a fan of football, it's pretty obvious at this point, guys. So he's 6'6", 220. Everyone likes to call him Sunshine off the movie. Remember the Titans? Because he looks pretty much like him. He's been the consensus number one pick really ever since last year, honestly. He could have came out of college last year and he would have been picked number one. But he decided to go back to Clemson for one more year, try and run it back for a national title. As we saw this past week, that wasn't able to pan out quite the way he wanted it to. But he still locked in that number one pick pretty easily, though. So 2018 national champion, of course. So he was trying to get another one. He couldn't get it, though, right out of his hands. He's also the 2020 ACC Player of the Year in a year in which, they played all ACC teams as well. So that told you there that he was impressive against his own division, as well as all the other teams he faced in his college career. And he's just a superstar quarterback, just straight up. He's looked absolutely tremendous. I got the stats pulled up in just a minute, but man, just one look at this guy. If you watch any film of this guy against whatever team, against the Alabamas, the Ohio States, any team, the ACC, the Notre Dames, he just looks like he fits the mold of a guy who's going to lead a team to victory, who's already got that great kind of veteran awareness for such a young age, too. Let's not forget he's just, he's a young guy, but he already looks like he's going to be a superstar. He wasn't, college. He's broken many records. He's looked great at Clemson. And now it's time for him to move on to the NFL and continue his journey. And, man, I got some of the stats here, Jeremiah, and he is one to be reckoned with. So, looking here, man, 758 of 1,138 for a 66% completion percentage. Absolutely phenomenal considering the amount of teams he's went up against in his career. Over 10,000 yards as well. 90 touchdowns and only 17 interceptions. That's the big one for me, is that this guy was able to face off against some of the highest level of competition at his position, during his time at Clemson and everywhere. And he was able to absolutely rock it for them, man. Over 10,000 yards and 90 touchdowns, absolutely phenomenal. Just this year alone in 2020, though, he's able to go for 69% completion percentage, his best, at his time here. Yeah, he did miss a couple of games, but however, that didn't deter too much, though. And he was just absolutely phenomenal. 5 picks only this year, almost a career low, 24 touchdowns to boot. So this guy is super, super impressive. As you can see, he doesn't turn the ball over hardly at all. It's rare, if ever. And he has a nose for the end zone, you can say, man, because it is very impressive how he's able to control where the ball's going to go, how he can keep it out of the opposing defender's hands the majority of the time. And, man, this dude is just absolutely special. As you can see, he went up every single year for the most part, except for this current year, of course, because, like I said, he missed a couple of games. But he's thrown for over 3,000 yards in his entire career at Clemson. So that's pretty solid, if you ask me. That's a number one pick if you were able to look at one, man. And 30 touchdowns, then 36 last season, and 24 this year with a little bit of a shortened schedule and all too. So this guy has all the tools, all the talent to rock it at the next level. And I think he's going to get there, man. He looks the part. He's got all the tools. He's got all the stats as we just saw here. And, man, like I said, his future, I'd underline Jeremiah. It's bright. Because, like I said, what more can you say about him? Honestly, everyone's already spoken highly about him. He's a good character on and off the field. You never see him getting in any trouble or anything like that. He's always consistent, doing good work on the field, getting all those stats piled up to the moon. He's going to go down as college football legend, straight up, just like that. He's already looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the last couple of drafts. I mean, honestly. And he's also going to be a top Clemson player of all time when everything's said and done. Just because, I mean, if you're able to throw for almost 100 touchdowns and under 20 interceptions, that alone is fairly impressive. I mean, yeah, it's nice if you go to kind of a smaller school and you ball out like that, but to go to a prestigious school like Clemson, which is, you know, an ACC powerhouse, and he's gone up against a lot of really good teams in his career in his 3 years for the Tigers. Man, he's got to be looked at as one of the best Clemson players of all time, man, especially at quarterback position. I know Deshaun Watson was there a couple of years ago. He's done great, but Trevor might just be neck and neck with him, if not a little bit better, man. So right now the Jaguars have got the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, and it's looking like they're going to go right to Trevor. They're going to pick him, and he is going to hopefully kind of lead that franchise around because he's got the ability to do so, Jeremiah. He has the ability to go in and ball out for a team. And the quarterback is a huge position need for any NFL franchise. And Trevor is definitely, you know, the one I think that is going to be able to help Jacksonville and help them turn things around, kind of right the ship, because they don't have the best record at the moment. I think they're 1-14, 1-15. So they need a little bit of help, and not just quarterback position. They need help all around, but quarterback is definitely where you want to start things at. And I think that Trevor, it looks like he's going to go. All signs point to him going to Jacksonville. If not, it's going to be a shocker to me. And I think everyone watching right now live, and everyone just that's a football fan. College, NFL, it doesn't matter. That's going to be a huge shock if he does not go number 1.
Right.
I know after, Justin Fields has been getting more talk after their game this previous weekend, but I still think that Trevor's got the edge on him. And so my final thoughts on Trevor as a draft prospect, number 1 pick in the 21 draft, going to Jacksonville, and I'm ready to see what he's going to do in the NFL because, man, he did great in college, and hopefully it's going to result in more of the same for all the Jaguars fans out there.
Absolutely. And from what we can tell from his on-field performance and his public persona is that he is a leader. And he is someone who wants to come in and actually, drive a program. He doesn't just want to be there. He doesn't want to just be involved. He wants to actually have an active role. So going to Jacksonville could be a pretty interesting move. And that's because as they do their first round draft pick, and they're going to pick the best person they can to put in the best position possible. What do you think? Do you think that if Jacksonville has a quarterback at the level of Trevor Lawrence and he can bring that same leadership to that team, do you think that Jacksonville could become a real competitor in the next few years?
Yeah, I don't think in the first year because, like you say, football is kind of a different sport in terms of drafting. It's great to have that superstar quarterback, but if you don't have an offensive line, some defensive weapons as well, you're still going to be stuck. You're still going to be stuck in the mud for a little bit. But I do think if they get him, they're not going to be the number 1 overall pick next year. If they were able to get him, I could see them getting a couple more wins. I don't see them getting in the playoffs in the first year, just because they still have a lot of kind of glaring holes in that system. I do know that Jacksonville has a lot of cap space, though. I think they have close to over $100 million. So they can go out and they can sign some really good free agents this offseason. And they could really kind of help bolster up this team and, get them at least a few better players to replace the current system they got now and to help out Trevor. Because, they're going to be going heavy in this draft for an offensive lineman as well to try and protect their star quarterback they're getting. They got to get a little bit more help on defense too, because you got to be able to, get some turnovers and stop the opposing team from scoring 50 on you. Right. So I think that in the next couple of years, I'd say 2 to 3 years, we could see Jacksonville trying to get back into the playoffs if they do get Trevor. Which, if they don't, then that's going to be talked about for years on now. If they pass up on this guy, but hopefully, they've seen enough footage. They've looked at all the stats. They've hopefully watched some of our videos as well, and they see that Trevor is the number 1 guy to go to. I think. I know if Vincent was here, he'd think so. Kevin, he was here. Bobby, they were all in agreement here, Jeremiah. This guy is the number 1 pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I do think that he will turn them around. And I think about 2 or 3 years. That's going to be the time frame for me. I think they'll get closer to the playoffs in about 2 or 3 years. But they got to keep building around him, though. That's the main thing. If they build around him, they'll be fine.
I definitely agree there, and I'm also very happy for Trevor. He took that risk of staying in college football and doing another year, and went full in. You know, he wanted to do as much as he could. Obviously, the COVID season, changed some things, but he did. He went through that, and he took that extra risk of potentially getting injured in his college career when he was still at the top of his game, which we've seen happen before with some other players, and it honestly changes the trajectory of where they're going to go. Maybe they don't even make it to the NFL. Maybe they don't even try to go to the draft because of injuries at that point, or maybe they end up having to struggle and find their place in the NFL later on without the draft system. So thankfully, Trevor Lawrence has made it through. He's going to make it to the draft. We're all going to be excited to see what happens after that. So in my final words, I would say, Trevor Lawrence, do the work that you're doing, continue it, and we will definitely keep watching over at Jacksonville. We would love to start highlighting Jacksonville Jaguars more often.
Yeah.
Give us a great reason over here at 100 Yards of Football. So in that vein, I am the producer, Jeremiah Long, and you've been joined by Logan Landers. Anytime that you want to see us, we're available to you. We're on demand over on YouTube, on our Facebook, and over on Twitch for all of our episodes. And we also broadcast every week on the Believe Podcast Network with our podcast. And you can look that up either on Spotify, on Apple, or anywhere that you do podcasts. So for the entire team here at 100 Yards of Football, I'm Jeremiah Long, and this is Logan Landers. And we've been talking about Trevor Lawrence and his NFL draft prospect possibilities. For anything else that you'd like to see, please comment, share, and subscribe. We are 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio.